Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Non-Scripted Ramblings. I'm Kendall Richardson. Thanks so much for joining me. As always, I do appreciate the small number of you that tune in and watch me ramble about all things Marvel. It is definitely noticed, and I thank you so much. It means the world. On that note, I'm here to, of course, discuss episode 7 of What If, which is What If Thor Were an Only Child? And as soon as I saw the episode title, I immediately got offended. Immediately, I was like, nah, this is gonna suck. This is gonna be shit. And then as I was watching the opening credits unfold immediately afterwards, and I saw Tom Hiddleston's name in the opening credits, I was like, okay, he's still in it somehow. So that's good. But I was just kind of taken aback by how many cool names I spotted in the opening credits, because this episode features quite a number of returning characters from the MCU. Some of them have lines, some of them don't, but that was really random and a really nice addition to this episode. I just want to say up front that I loved this episode so much. Of course I did. It's a Thor-centric episode. He's my favourite Avenger. And then, with Loki in this episode as well. Can't go wrong. It was just great. And it was really nice to have an episode that was kind of upbeat and positive and funny and just kind of good vibes, nothing serious, nothing nothing too crazy in terms of just depressing and shocking and all of that stuff like the previous weeks have been. Like, we've had a run since the T'Challa Star-Lord episode, we've had a run of just depression through this show, so it's nice to really see them return to their, fun roots, which I think they started off with. Like, the Captain Carter episode was a lot of fun, and then, of course, T'Challa Star-Lord was so much fun. And then it just went, downhill mood-wise from there, but the quality improved as well. Ebbed and flowed, but mostly improved. So it was just really nice to have a really cool, just fun episode, I'm totally here for that. And just to hear Chris Hemsworth having the time of his life voicing Thor in this episode, that was just great. I'm here for it. I want more party Thor. It was so good. This episode would not have been anywhere near as entertaining, I think, if it wasn't Hemsworth doing the voice, because he really leaned into the comedic side of Thor that we got a glimpse of in Thor Ragnarok, except this is kind of like a cross between Thor 1 and Ragnarok Thor, I suppose, just because of the way he looks and kind of is, but he's just, just funny as well. And Thor 1 Thor was not this funny or sassy or anything like that. So yeah, I know, I really liked that. I guess, the Nexus event that we should quickly mention in this episode was the fact that Odin, when he discovered Loki, the same way he did in the main timeline, instead of taking him in and raising him as his own, he decided to give him back to Laufey, which is interesting because the Laufey in the main timeline would not have taken him back, because I'm fairly certain Loki was kind of abandoned because he was the runt of the litter, essentially. Like, he was a small, like Odin says in Thor 1, small for a frost giant. That's why he was kind of cast away, So it's interesting that there's a timeline that exists where Odin's like, here's your little one, don't lose him, and Laufey decides to, take him back, or, look after him, raise him as his own son. So that's interesting. That's an interesting Nexus event. And it's interesting also in the fact that because of that, we end up getting this version of Thor. Like, the Loki that we get in the MCU is responsible for also affecting Thor as a person. And, you know, I didn't want to admit that things are better with Loki not being on Asgard, but it seems that way, that they are, just because Thor's a lot happier. Loki himself is a lot happier. And things just aren't, you know, dark and depressing and doom and gloom like in the first Thor film. The one other thing that actually stays the same, though, is Odin still goes into the Odin sleep in this episode. Now, I don't really know how the Odin sleep works in terms of, I mean, because like in the movie it was kind of just seemed to be explained as if he was just overwhelmed with the situation, and the confrontation with Loki, that he just recoiled inward, and then couldn't remain conscious, needed to sleep in order to regenerate himself. And that's kind of implied. I don't know if it's kind of implied here. I don't know, but like I felt it in the main timeline. It's something that happened because he just couldn't handle things that were going on, so he, you know, peaced out. But here he still goes into the Odin sleep at the same time in the timeline, because these events are happening during 2011 when the first Thor film takes place. So yeah, why does he go into the Odin sleep? I don't know. But anyway, so I needed more clarification on that as to why that still happens, unless it was just going to happen regardless, like it was one of those fixed points in the timeline that can't be changed. Odin goes into the Odin sleep in 2011. Anyway, so Frigga makes Thor the interim king of Asgard, similarly to what she does in the Thor film, where there's actually a deleted scene where she actually proclaims Loki king, which would have been so cool if they'd kept it in, but anyway, I'm still bitter about it. Yeah, so yeah, Thor's king of Asgard. And Frigga's like, I'm gonna go on a holiday and catch up with my friends, just because, I suppose. Very interesting. Very interesting. And Thor is, yeah, for some reason he's just all about having a good time and getting drunk and partying and doing silly things with, you know, Sif and the Warriors 3, and roping in half the galaxy in on the shenanigans, it seems. Because, you know, we get, he arrives in Las Vegas, and then we just get multiple moments and scenes of him, Sif, the Warriors 3, and like Guardians of the Galaxy characters are there, Yondu's there, Nebula's there. There's a hilarious scene later on the episode with Rocket Raccoon just sleeping, passed out in a bathroom sink, and Thor refers to him again as a rabbit, which I thought was a nice nod to Avengers Infinity War. Sweet rabbit. That was pretty cool. Yeah, we've got the Sovereign there, the golden beings from Guardians Volume 2. We've got a bunch of Skrulls going on. Yeah, it's there's a lot of stuff going on. And the other really cool thing is that there were characters from Ragnarok there too. So we've got a quick look at Scourge. He was there. Sadly, no Karl Urban to be seen. He didn't have any dialogue, but it was nice to kind of have him there. Same for Valkyrie. She was in the background in a few shots. But no Tessa Thompson, which is fine. And yeah, and who else? I mean, we had Korg. No Meek. I didn't see a Meek. I don't know if any of you guys saw Meek. I only saw Korg, so shout out, comment below if you saw Meek in this episode anywhere. I would like to know. I would really like to know. But Taika Waititi came back to voice Korg, which is sweet. And even Jeff Goldblum and Rachel House reprised their roles from Thor Ragnarok, which was just amazing. And to see the Grandmaster like do his DJ thing again, in a kind of on a bigger scale here, I thought that was really cool. Just a lot of fun. And then Howard the Duck again. Seth Green returns as Howard the Duck for the second time. in this What If series, and that was great. I don't know. I'm enjoying these little Howard the Duck moments we're getting. They're quite amusing, and the fact that they get so wasted that Darcy and Howard the Duck end up getting married by an Elvis impersonator in Vegas. Like, that's like the Vegas experience right there. And I like it when Howard calls her like Mrs. the Duck. I thought that was pretty amusing. Yeah, so that was cool. And then another character we get to see randomly was Surtur, which I have questions. I have a lot of questions. Why? Like, I really wanted to see. There should have been a scene of like Thor and Surtur bonding or something, just because, you know, Surtur is supposed to be the one that destroys Asgard, causes Ragnarok, right? So how is he on Earth and, you know, trying to shack up with the Statue of Liberty? Like, how? I need to know, Marvel. Explain. I mean, I'm happy to whistle past it and just ignore it and enjoy it for what it is, because it is super entertaining. It's a lot of fun. I cracked up laughing. Seeing Surtur just flirting with Lady Liberty and, you know, melting her arm off because of how hot he is. Like, I just thought that was very amusing. Quite a bit. But of course, I lost my shit the most when Loki showed up, because, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Jotun Loki. Oh my god, Frost Giant Loki in the flesh. Finally. I mean, yeah, it's an animated form. Don't care. I'll take it. It's fine. I'll absolutely take it. Literally the only nitpick I have about him is why is he so big? Because as I mentioned earlier, in the main timeline, he's a runt, which is why supposedly why he only grows to the size of, you know, of someone like Thor, you know, 6'3", 4" tall, kind of human man size, not a giant size like we see the frost giants in the Thor film. But here, he's a fully grown frost giant, and I have questions, again, that I need answering. But, again, also, I am willing to whistle past it, because it just looked so great. And apart from Thor, Loki was probably the best thing in this episode, because similar to Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston was also having the time of his life voicing Loki in this episode. It was just a joy, and the two of them just having it out, their bromance, if you will, was just wonderful, and the fact that, you know, they made a point of saying they're still brothers, even though they're not, you know, I mean, they were never related, obviously, but they're still brothers, even if they weren't, you know, Loki wasn't adopted into the family. They're still bros, and they have this whole, like, you know, Loki's like, you're my brother from another mother, man, like, which is great, because the amount of times I've heard Tom Hiddleston say that in interviews about how Hemsworth is, you know, his brother from, he is Hemsworth's brother from another mother, yeah, like, there was like this, I think it was for Thor: The Dark World, there's like one of these junket interviews where, like, Chris Hemsworth said that they've adopted Tom into the Hemsworth clan, and then they made the brother from another mother joke, I'm pretty sure, but yeah, something like that. I thought that was very amusing, so I feel like that was maybe a kind of a reference to that, to the fact that that's kind of what they refer to each other as in real life, and I really I liked the part when they're like, you know, like, Loki's, like, pinky promising, but Thor's wrapping his entire hand around Loki's pinky, because that's, you know, obviously the size difference. And then Thor's like, brothers forever. And then Loki says, brothers forever. He, like, sings it. I just lost it. I'm like, this is great. This is fantastic. Yeah, every scene with the two of them, I could have had the entire episode just could have been Thor and Loki, and I would have been so happy. I mean, I'm still very happy with what we got. Not saying I'm not, but that was definitely the highlight of my watching experience with this episode. Was just those moments of the two of them. It was just awesome. I really enjoyed. What else can I mention? Okay, well, I suppose I should mention the fact that we had so many returning actors playing their characters from the movies in this episode, which was so cool. Really great to see Natalie Portman voice Jane Foster. Of course, Kat Dennings is back as Darcy Lewis. That was great. Yeah, I would have loved if they'd taken advantage more of the fact that they had Jeff Goldblum and Taika Waititi, because we didn't really get much Grandmaster and Korg, even less Korg than Grandmaster, really. And I think Rachel House only has one line. I was like, come on, we can give Topaz more to do. Like, come on, we can make this work. Karen Gillan came back to voice Nebula as well. She only has one line. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know. Again, time constraints. If they'd had more time, they probably would have had more scenes. But that's, again, a nitpick. I was just really happy to hear all of their voices. You know, Samuel L. Jackson came back for basically one line as Nick Fury. We got Kobe Smulders as Maria Hill, acting director of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was cool. And Frank Grillo returned again as Crossbones. And I was very happy to see that Clancy Brown had reprised his role as Surtur, because he was the voice of Surtur in Thor Ragnarok. But when I was watching the episode, because like he has two lines, like when the first appearance of him, and then when he fixes Liberty's arm, he says something else. And I was listening for it, because the first time I heard him speak, I was like, no, that's not him. And then the second time, I was like, no, it's definitely not him. But then according to IMDb and the interwebs, it was Clancy Brown. I'm like, oh, it sounded very different for some reason. I don't know, maybe I just need to rewatch the episode. But nonetheless, very happy to see Clancy Brown return as Surtur. But I suppose I don't know. Again, I'm banging my head against a wall with this kind of repeated theme of why can't they get these actors to come back and do, if they can get fucking Jeff Goldblum to come back for like 2 lines of dialogue, then how the fuck can they not get Brie Larson to be Captain Marvel? If it had been Brie Larson in this episode, I would have loved Captain Marvel more. I mean, it's the first time I've mentioned Captain Marvel in this entire episode, and she's like in it for half of it. It was really cool to see her show up, just in general. The fact that S.H.I.E.L.D. and Maria Hill was like, okay, Thor's causing too much destruction with his partying on Earth, and we need someone to take him down that could actually do so, and that's Carol Danvers, of course, so she uses the beeper to bring her in. And it was so cool to see Captain Marvel and Thor fight against each other. I actually really enjoyed those scenes. I thought the animation was very well done. I loved the different, the kind of choreography of the fight, how it was animated, the different moves they used, and callbacks to, things from the first Avengers film, like the put the hammer down line, and then the moment where Thor uses the lightning with Mjolnir and hurls it at Carol, and she just uses the power to her advantage, same as Tony Stark did in Avengers 1. So that was cool. So I loved their fights, and I was really pleased with her addition in this episode. I would have loved it more if it had been Brie Larson. I really want to know why Brie Larson didn't do this show, because it's just frustrating. Nevertheless, I think Alexandra Daniels, who did voice her, did a fine job, in doing an impersonation, I guess. Her take on the character, I thought, was fine. I just really like Brie Larson. I'm a fan of her as an actress, and it would have been really nice to have her in this episode. But regardless, I can understand why Renee Russo maybe didn't want to do this or couldn't do this. She's a bit older, maybe, I don't know. So she wasn't voicing Frigga here. And I liked the voice that Josette Eels did for Frigga in this episode, only because I liked the way it sounded, but the main problem I have with it is it didn't sound like Frigga to me. It wasn't like Renee Russo's interpretation of Frigga at all. it was a different version, and that's fine if that's what they wanted to do. It is an alternate universe after all. You can have, you know, slightly different versions of these characters as we are seeing visually. So I mean, I suppose hearing them, we're allowed to have, you know, have slightly different takes on the voices. But it just kind of stood out to me a bit that it wasn't Rene Russo because it was so different. But that being said, it was a nice voice. Like, she has a really nice voice. So, yeah, kind of rocking a hard place on Frigga in this episode. I really did like David Chen as Hogan. He did a very, very good job. I actually thought it was Tadanobu Asano actually doing the voice of Hogan in this episode because it sounded so much. Like, that's probably the best, like the most accurate voice acting, like impersonation of the real, you know, of the movie character I've heard so far in this entire thing. And that's, yeah, David Chen doing Hogan. Very impressed with that. We also had Fred, I'm going to butcher it, I'm so sorry, Tatashiore, I'm going to say, Tatashiore, did the voice of Drax again. He was the voice of Drax in episode 2 with T'Challa Star-Lord when he's behind the bar, and he was also the voice of Volstagg. And yeah, he did a fine job. I enjoyed his performance as well. And then we had Max Mittelman as Fandral. Would have been nice if they could have gotten either Zach Levi or Josh Dallas to do the voice. Either one of them would have been fine. Apparently couldn't get either. You know, 2 people played this character and they couldn't get either of them. It's fine. I don't know what Josh Dallas is doing, but of course Zachary Levi is very busy working at DC now, so don't blame him for not being able to reprise his role as Fandral in this, but that would have been cool if that had happened. What else could I mention? I really enjoyed, a couple of things I really enjoyed. I really liked the fact that we got to have this big party moment actually taking place in Sydney before the big, huge Captain Marvel versus Thor fight. I thought that was cool. You know, Aussies represent. I'm sure Chris Hemsworth had a bit of sway with the location for the animation, or at least maybe the people behind the animation were like, let's shout out Chris Hemsworth, pay homage to him by having this, you know, set in Sydney. And then he was going to like slide down the roof of the Sydney Opera House, and I really wanted to see that. But then Captain Marvel, you know, was a party pooper, as they referred to her as in the episode. And yeah, it took him away. But no, that was really cool. I like that. Oh, what was the other thing I was gonna say? And it's gone now. It's gone. If I think of it, if it's important, it'll come back to me. But regardless, yeah, I know, just this episode was just a lot of fun. I don't really have too much else to really say about it. I loved so much with it. Nitpicks galore, but it was still a very good episode of What If that definitely ranks among the highest. It may, just in terms of enjoyment, it's probably better than the T'Challa Star-Lord episode, but I may have to go back and rewatch the 2 of them one after the other to actually compare and see which one is actually a better episode, because it has been over a month now since episode 2 aired, and I've watched it, so I could be wrong, and I don't want to, I'm super biased obviously, so I don't want to say that the Thor, you know, this episode with Party Thor is better than the T'Challa Star-Lord episode, because I know a lot of people will find that incorrect. So yeah, so it's kind of, at the moment, I'm just going to say it's equal second best to the Doctor Strange episode, but just so much fun. Probably the most fun episode, though, I would say. Oh yeah, that was the thing I was going to mention. I just really thought it was very funny how at the end, when Thor realizes that Frigga is coming and he's going to be in a lot of trouble, he tries to like beg everyone to help him clean up the planet before she arrives. And I just thought it was just really kind of reminiscent of those movies where, you know, this kid's had this big party they're not supposed to have, and, you know, he's trying to get as many people as possible to help clean up and make it look nice so he doesn't get told off. And I kind of like that. I thought that was very funny, and especially the way that Hemsworth played it was really nice. Oh, and then the moment where while they are going around the world cleaning everything, Thor decided to straighten the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and he was super chuffed with himself when he did. Oh, I thought that was freaking gold. I loved that so much. That was just brilliant. Yeah, I think that's probably it. I will finish up my thoughts on this episode, of course, by talking about the ending. Now, we all really did think it was going to be happily ever after for our characters, because, you know, it was. Thor and Jane looked like they were heading in a good direction. You know, the Earth got tidied up. Nobody died. You know, everything was hunky-dory by the time the episode ended. And then literally we had a moment of not even the watcher understanding what the hell was going on. Like in this episode, again, even more so, Uatu is coming more into frame. We're seeing more what he looks like. We even got like a really kind of up-close shot of him, like when the camera kind of swung around past him. Like, that was cool. But the fact that he was like, wait, what? After he finished his narration was creepy in a really good way. Like, I really liked that. And then, you know, we get Thor's reaction because there is a portal opening, and clearly what Uatu was not expecting it at all. And through the portal march all these drones, very similar to the Ultron drones from Age of Ultron. And then, of course, the robot himself walks through, and he's big, like he was, maybe slightly bigger, and he's got the Infinity Stones all like in his, I think they're all in his chest. And his face has more red dots than it did last time, like eyes or whatever. And I was just like, what the hell is going on? And then his like face opened up like an Iron Man mask and revealed Vision with the Mind Stone and like red eyes. I'm like, what? What is going on? So I feel like this episode makes it more clear than ever we're getting a crossover between everything at the end. And I'm fairly confident, I think I have mentioned this in the past, there have been trailers that have been put out. I haven't seen them myself, but I've seen images, you know, of certain things, certain characters doing certain things together. So it looks like, yeah, there's obviously some kind of big multiverse what-if crossover happening either next week or definitely the week after. We've got 2 episodes left, so episode 9 will be this big epic episode. And maybe the vibe is that this Ultron Vision is the big bad of the whole thing. I don't know. I mean, we've got him to contend with. We've got Killmonger somewhere as well. Doctor Strange Supreme is still trapped inside his very, very tiny universe. We've got a Loki who is ruling over Earth in one timeline. Ego the Living Planet as well is he's gonna take shit over too, and Captain Carter is you know, has been brought to a certain point in the timeline from the 40s. So and I feel like I'm forgetting someone else. But oh yeah, and zombie Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet. There you go. So there's a lot of loose ends that need to be tied up. And yeah, we know we're getting a second season, but I feel like these seasons are kind of like, here are all your individual like bottle episodes with these like sort of like post-credit scenes that are kind of in the episode, right? Maybe, sort of, a little. And so, and then we have all these bottle episodes, and then we get to the last episode where all these little add-on bits that kind of don't fit to the main overall episode will collide, and there will be crossovers and all this stuff. But it will be curious to see if, going forward in season 2, if there are... if there's just a through storyline with these like multiversal Avengers sort of coming together that are just consistently, you know, fighting against threats in across the multiverse, which is interesting to say. Talking about threats and multiverse, the fact that Kang hasn't been brought up yet, especially because, you know, we now know that because in Loki, the reason why the multiverse was stopped and we had one sacred timeline was because all these different versions of Kang across the multiverse were fighting each other for supremacy. There was a multiversal war and all this, and it was just bad. And What If is canon. It's all these different universes, hence a multiverse, hence where the hell is Kang at. So maybe season 2, there'll be some Kang the Conqueror action. I hope so. It'd be really great to see an animated form of him with Jonathan Majors, hopefully, reprising his role. That would be sweet. But yeah, for now, we've got a Vision Ultron with all of the stones somehow, coming from another universe. So yeah, interesting. He's come from a universe where I guess, yeah, Tony created Ultron, at an earlier time, unless he time traveled from a time where the events played out in Age of Ultron, except Ultron wins. So it kind of makes sense that from there he would want to get all the Infinity Stones. How he gets the Soul Stone, though, is the one question I really would like answered. I did see something online that said maybe because he had Vision, he sacrificed Vision, but like you sacrifice, you know, his soul, right? If Vision has a soul, you could sacrifice it, but the body you can do whatever you want with. It's not, you know, you're not giving up the body, it's not disintegrating or anything, which would explain how maybe Ultron is actually inhabiting Vision's body inside the armor at the end, and that's what that is. I'm just guessing here based on what I've kind of seen online. So who knows about that? Maybe I'm looking too deeply into it, and it doesn't matter. All that matters is that he has the stones and he's gonna fuck shit up. Who knows? We've got 2 episodes left. Are we gonna get a Gamora episode? She's the one character from the trailers we haven't seen introduced yet. There was also talk of an episode where Tony Stark was on Sakaar. So I don't know if that's next week's episode and Gamora is there and they have to fight each other, because Gamora has Thanos' armor in these images from the trailers, and she's holding that big, like, dual wielding kind of sword thing that he has, that you see him fighting with in Avengers Endgame. So yeah, questions need answering. 2 episodes left. That's it from me, I think, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, give it a little thumbs up, give it a little share, and subscribe to Fred the Alien so you see all of my videos as they come out. That would be awesome. Let me know your thoughts below. Is there anything you want me to talk about or do videos on? Like, I'm totally open to requests from people. That would be cool. Or if there's anything I missed that you wanted me to touch on, comment below and I will talk about it next week. But yeah, I think that's really it for me. So thank you again so much for watching. Until next time, I've been Kendall Richardson and you've just experienced non-scripted ramblings.